The remote island of Berk, surrounded by pristine waters and rugged nature, is home to a noble line of Vikings. However, the villagers suffer constant attacks from ferocious dragons that often come and steal their livestock. In the midst of the chaos, a teenager named Hiccup wants to prove himself by using one of his inventions to take down a dragon and finally be seen as a real Viking. But before he can get to his invention, he's caught by his father, Chief Stoic the Vast, who also happens to be the tribe's leader. Stoic firmly orders Hiccup to go home, but Hiccup does the opposite. He runs to the blacksmith shop where he works as an apprentice to Gobber to grab the invention, but Gobber simply tells him to get back to polishing weapons.
What have we got? Broncos, Nadders, Zipperwax, Skrells, Snorty Spotted the Monsters.
After reviewing the types of dragons attacking the village, Stoic instructs the Vikings to protect the livestock and keep an eye out for Night Furies, a rare and dangerous dragon that no one has ever seen and lived to tell the tale. Back to Hiccup, who spots a group of teens around his age. They are the ones chosen for the next dragon training. The group includes the twins Roughnut and Toughnut, Fishlegs, Snotlout, and Astrid, the tough, skilled Viking warrior whom Hiccup secretly has a crush on.
What?
Frustrated, Hiccup tells Gobber he wants to go out and make his mark, prove himself, impress Astrid, and finally make his father proud. But Gobber tells him Astrid is a real Viking, and that Hiccup doesn't even know how to swing an axe. Hiccup insists his invention works, but when he demonstrates, it misfires, causing a ruckus in the shop. Still, Hiccup refuses to give up. He's determined to take down at least one dragon. Then Hiccup hears a strange roar and believes it could be the Night Fury. Gobber grabs his sword and tells Hiccup to stay put. But Hiccup doesn't listen. He sneaks out, takes his new invention, and fires a net into the sky. Amazingly, it works. He actually hits the Night Fury. Just then, another dragon spots him and gives chase. Stoic sees the danger and immediately comes to his son's rescue. Stoic is far from impressed when Hiccup proudly says he hit the Night Fury. Stoic doesn't share his excitement. Instead, he scolds him bitterly, saying that every time he gets involved, disaster follows, especially now that the dragons have raided their livestock and winter is fast approaching. Then, he tells Gobber to take Hiccup home. The teens don't miss an opportunity to mock Hiccup. On his way home, Hiccup vents his frustration to Gobber, expressing how badly he wants to make his father proud, but complains that Stoic never gives him the chance to prove himself.
The point is, stop trying so hard to be something you're not.
Meanwhile, Stoic leads a council meeting as the Vikings voice their growing fear about the dragon attacks and the loss of their livestock. Stoic reassures them not to be afraid, promising that the problem will be solved once they locate the dragon's nest and destroy it for good. He motivates the Vikings, reminding them that they are the descendants of the finest dragon fighters the world has ever known.
So are we really gonna pack up and go home while these bloody beasts are still a threat to all of our lands? Is that who we are? Is it?
He then turns to the village elder, Gothi, for a sign to confirm if now is the right time to find the nest. After a brief pause, she nods. Stoic wastes no time. He orders the Vikings to prepare the ships. He then asks Gobber to train the new recruits since he won't be around. Gobber gently suggests that Hiccup has plenty of free time now and that it would be good for him to learn how to fight dragons alongside the others. Stoic, however, is not convinced that Hiccup is serious about becoming a Viking.
More than anything, believe it or not, that young man actually wants to make you proud.
Eventually, Gobber manages to convince him, and Stoic reluctantly agrees. Later that day, Hiccup sneaks out of his house and heads deep into the woods to find the Night Fury he believes he hit last night. He notices a broken branch along the path and decides to follow it. To his surprise, he finds the Night Fury lying motionless. Hiccup draws his knife and approaches quietly, thinking the dragon is dead. But he's not. As Hiccup raises his knife to strike, the Night Fury closes his eyes, seemingly accepting his fate. But Hiccup can't go through with it. Instead, he cuts the ropes and frees the dragon. The Night Fury immediately lunges at Hiccup and lets out a deafening roar. He tries to fly away but fails. His tail is broken. That night, Hiccup returns home and is greeted by his father. Stoic tells him that he has enrolled him in the dragon training program. Definitely not something Hiccup wants. But Stoic simply says, "It's time."
Will.
He also tells Hiccup that he'll be away for a few days before leaving. The next day, the dragon training program begins, known as the Trial of Flame, where future Vikings and chiefs are forged. The teens enter the arena, awestruck by it all. Hiccup joins them but is mocked once again.
Let him in.
I guess Daddy pulled some strings.
Aren't you two like a little old to be here?
Moments later, Gobber arrives and informs the trainees about the trials they'll face. At the end of the Trial of Flame, the one who scores the highest across all the rounds will earn the honor of killing a dragon before the entire village.
Aren't you gonna, teach us something first?
Gobber releases a gruesome Gronkle and tells the teens to grab shields. The first test is about defense and survival. He instructs them to make as much noise as possible, revealing that loud sounds disorient the Gronkle, throwing off its senses. The twins get eliminated. Soon after, Fishlegs and Snotlout are knocked out as well. Only Hiccup and Astrid remain. While Astrid fiercely holds her ground, Hiccup gets distracted admiring her. In the process, he gets cornered by the Gronkle. Gobber intervenes just in time and locks the dragon back up. He scolds Hiccup harshly, reminding him that dragons always go for the kill, even if unprovoked. This leaves Hiccup confused. He wonders why the Night Fury didn't kill him when it had the chance. Determined to find answers, Hiccup returns to the forest and spots the Night Fury down in a pit, trying and failing to fly. Curious, Hiccup begins sketching the dragon in his notebook. He notices that one of the tail fins is missing. As he laments this, he accidentally drops his pencil, catching the dragon's attention. That night, Gobber gathers the trainees and tells them to reflect on their mistakes during training. Hiccup joins the group, albeit a little late. Gobber then takes out the Book of Dragons, a massive volume that contains detailed information about every known dragon species. The teens seem uninterested, except for Astrid and Fishlegs, who have already read the entire book. After the others leave, Hiccup goes up to Astrid and blurts out that maybe everyone's wrong about dragons, that they might not be as dangerous as they think. This angers Astrid. She sharply replies that, unlike Hiccup, who has a chief for a father, she comes from nothing. She declares that her goal is to wipe out every dragon and become chief herself.
I don't doubt it. Actually, I think my dad would be thrilled.
Stay out of my way, Hiccup.
Later, Hiccup flips through the Book of Dragons, learning about the various species and their powers. He notices a disturbing pattern. Nearly every page has the same warning: extremely dangerous. Kill on sight. Then he turns to the section on the Night Fury, only to find it blank. There's no record of it at all. Meanwhile, far away, Stoic and the other Vikings steer their ships deep into the thick fog, inching closer to what they believe is the dragon's nest. Just then, a swarm of dragons ambushes them mid-sea, throwing the mission into chaos. Back at the village, it's the second day of the Trial of Flame. Today, the teens face off against a deadly Nather. Gobber warns them that this one is fast and aggressive. He instructs the teens to look for a blind spot. As the dragon charges, Hiccup gets into trouble. Astrid notices and quickly saves him, then bravely fights the Nather herself and eventually forces it back into its cage. She then turns to the group and urges them to start taking the training seriously.
Figure out which side you're on.
Later that day, Hiccup visits the Night Fury again. This time, he offers him a fish. At first, the dragon is wary, but when Hiccup throws away his knife to show he means no harm, the dragon accepts the offering. Noticing his retractable teeth, Hiccup names him Toothless. Moments later, Toothless coughs up the uneaten head of the fish right onto Hiccup. Believing he needs to eat it to gain the dragon's trust, Hiccup hesitantly swallows it. Toothless watches, clearly amused. Then he curls up peacefully in a corner, seemingly comfortable with Hiccup's presence. As evening falls, Toothless wakes up from his nap to find Hiccup still there. He watches Hiccup drawing in the sand and grabs a nearby branch to do the same. Then, without disrupting the drawing, Hiccup slowly approaches and gently touches Toothless's nose. As night falls, Gobber regales the trainees with stories from his past, how he lost both his hand and a leg to dragons.
I'll avenge your fallen limbs, big guy. I'll chop off the hands and feet of every dragon.
He advises them to go for a dragon's tail and wings, noting, "A grounded dragon is a dead dragon." This gives Hiccup an idea. He starts designing a mechanical tail fin for Toothless. The next morning, Hiccup brings Toothless a variety of fish for breakfast. But when Toothless sees an eel among them, he recoils in fear, prompting Hiccup to toss it away. While Toothless is distracted, Hiccup fits the new tail fin onto him. As Toothless tries it out, he successfully takes flight, soaring through the skies for the first time since his injury. Hiccup watches in awe and joy. Now it's time for the third round of the Trial of Flame. This time, the teens face the hideous Zippleback, a two-headed dragon. Gobber explains its trick. One head spits gas, the other ignites it. Also, if it's wet, it can't produce fire. The challenge is for the teens to figure out which head is which. Instead, Hiccup cleverly uses an eel to frighten the dragon, sending it scrambling back into its cage. Over the next few days, Hiccup builds new gear to help him ride and guide Toothless more smoothly. With one natural tail fin and the other now mechanical, Toothless depends on Hiccup to stay balanced in the air. As they train together, their bond grows stronger. During one flight, however, they lose balance and crash land in a meadow full of dandelions, causing Toothless to sneeze. This sparks an idea in Hiccup. During the Trial of Flame, while the other teens are busy fending off a Gronkle, Hiccup uses the dandelion to distract it. It works, and Hiccup wins the round, though the other teens are furious. That afternoon, Hiccup discovers that scratching a certain spot on Toothless's neck puts him to sleep. Later, when the teens face the Natter again in a later round, Hiccup uses that knowledge to distract it, securing another win. This makes Hiccup the center of attention. The other teens begin to admire him, except for Astrid, who grows increasingly suspicious. Hiccup continues to experiment with Toothless and starts applying these tricks in training. In one round, Hiccup uses reflected sunlight from his shield to gently capture a tiny but quick dragon called a Terrible Terror. Later that day, Astrid secretly follows Hiccup, trying to find out what he's hiding. But she loses track of him. Meanwhile, Stoic returns to the village with fewer ships and several injured Vikings. Gobber, in an effort to cheer him up, talks about Hiccup's natural talent for taming dragons, noting that it has become the talk of the village. Back with Hiccup, he's put together a detailed riding manual for Toothless, hoping to steer him with precision. But during one of their flights, the instructions fall short. Something's off. Frustrated, Hiccup abandons the guide and decides to trust his instincts instead. To his surprise, the flight becomes smoother, and he realizes he's finally learning to ride Toothless naturally. That night, Stoic visits Gobber's workshop, completely surprising Hiccup, who expects the usual reprimand. But instead, Stoic does something he never has before. He expresses pride in his son, saying he knows about Hiccup taming dragons and that he's impressed. Then Stoic hands him a Viking helmet and tells him it was forged from his mother's old metal armor, something deeply meaningful. With a gentle nod, Stoic leaves Hiccup alone with his thoughts. The next day marks the final round of the Trial of Flame. Astrid's parents cheer her from the sidelines, but to Astrid's dismay, Hiccup has already tamed the dragon they were supposed to battle, robbing her of the opportunity. Elder Gothi steps forward and announces the top dragon slayer of the year, Hiccup. While the village celebrates, Hiccup is troubled. He doesn't want to kill a dragon, so he decides to flee the village with Toothless. But Astrid secretly followed him and discovers the truth. She eventually comes face to face with Toothless, who growls at her due to her weapon. But Hiccup calms him down before anything can happen. Astrid runs, but before she can get far, Toothless and Hiccup swoop in and carry her off to a mountaintop. There, Hiccup pleads with her to give Toothless a chance, to see that he's not dangerous. Though hesitant, Astrid gets on Toothless. The dragon takes off into the sky, flying wildly at first, not listening to Hiccup's commands. But when Astrid apologizes, Toothless softens and gently glides them above the ethereal clouds. Astrid admits that she still believes dragons are dangerous, but she also acknowledges that Toothless is different. Still, she reminds Hiccup that tomorrow, he's expected to kill a dragon in front of the entire village. Hiccup says maybe they can convince the village not to kill dragons. But Astrid argues that the dragons have stolen their food, burned their homes, and taken lives. Hiccup quietly agrees, even admitting that the dragons took his mother, but insists that they can't keep fighting forever. Suddenly, they notice a horde of dragons flying past them, all heading in the same direction. Toothless is drawn to it and starts following on his own. Soon, they arrive at the dragon's nest, a fiery, cleft-like chasm. They watch as the dragons drop stolen livestock into the abyss. To their horror, a massive, monstrous dragon, red, towering, and brutal, emerges from the flames. It devours one of the smaller dragons as punishment, revealing who's really in control. Hiccup and Astrid realize the truth. The dragons only steal livestock because they're being forced to serve their queen. Astrid tells Hiccup they need to tell Stoic immediately. But Hiccup stops her, saying, if they do, Toothless's life will be in danger.
Okay.
Next morning, the long-awaited village tradition has finally arrived. But Hiccup is overwhelmed with nerves, torn between doing the right thing and not disappointing his father. Then Astrid joins him. Hiccup tells her not to get involved, saying that if his plan to convince the village fails, he doesn't want Stoic to lose respect for her because of it. Hiccup steps into the battleground. The crowd erupts, chanting his name with wild excitement. He picks up a shield and a small knife and waits as the monstrous nightmare is released. At first, the dragon tries to escape, but when it spots Hiccup, it slowly approaches him with caution. Hiccup drops his weapons and begins speaking gently to it. Stoic, watching in disbelief, orders Gobber to stop the fight. This sudden interference startles the dragon, causing it to go berserk. At that moment, far away, Toothless hears the dragon's cry and races toward the arena. Astrid rushes into the battleground to help Hiccup, despite Stoic yelling for her to stay back. Just as the dragon is about to strike, Toothless swoops in and saves Hiccup. But now, the villagers, panicked and afraid, storm the arena to attack the Night Fury, much to Hiccup's dismay. Stoic arrives and confronts Toothless directly. They clash, but Toothless quickly gains the upper hand, until Hiccup begs him to stop. He does, allowing the Vikings to capture him. Hiccup pleads with his father to let Toothless go, but Stoic erupts in anger. He reminds Hiccup that dragons took his mother and killed hundreds of Vikings. But Hiccup stands his ground, arguing that they have killed thousands of dragons, and that dragons are only defending themselves. In the heat of the moment, Hiccup slips up, mentioning that the dragons have a queen in a hidden nest, and if they don't bring her enough food, she punishes them. Stoic, stunned, asks if Hiccup has seen the nest. Hiccup reluctantly admits he has, and only got there with Toothless's help.
You've thrown your lot, and with that...
Stoic orders the Vikings to prepare the ships. Toothless is taken with them, against his will. Later, Astrid finds Hiccup, who is filled with guilt. He reveals that he accidentally exposed the dragon's nest and wonders aloud that if he should have killed Toothless back in the woods when he had the chance. Without missing a beat, Astrid asks, "Then why didn't you?" Hiccup finally confesses. Toothless looked just as scared as he was. Meanwhile, Stoic and the Viking fleet sail once again into the fog. Gobber isn't convinced this time will be any different. Back in the village, Hiccup turns to the other teens for help. Together they decide to save the Vikings and Toothless. But with all the ships already gone, Hiccup suggests a bold plan. They'll ride the very dragons they once trained to fight against. Meanwhile, Stoic and the others reach the nest. As they advance, all the dragons flee. Suddenly, the ground shakes. A deafening roar erupts. The Dragon Queen emerges. Stoic immediately orders everyone to get back to safety. The Queen unleashes a torrent of fire, burning the ships. Just then, Hiccup and the teens arrive on their dragons. Astrid quickly organizes the group. She tells Fishlegs and Snotlout to find the dragon's weak spots and make as much noise as possible, while the twins are instructed to make it as angry as they can. Hiccup and Astrid spot Toothless in chains. Astrid drops Hiccup onto the burning boat, and he tries to free him. Meanwhile, Fishlegs soon realizes something horrifying. The queen has no blind spot. At that moment, Snotlout falls from his dragon and lands directly on the queen's head and tries disorienting her. But in the chaos, the ship with Hiccup and Toothless is knocked into the water. Hiccup tries to save Toothless, but he's pulled back to surface, until Stoic dives in and frees the dragon himself. As Hiccup rushes to Toothless, Stoic stops him.
I'm proud to call you my son.
The twins rescue Snotlout, while Astrid bravely distracts the queen. When her dragon's tail gets caught, she leaps straight into the queen's mouth to save it. Moments later, Toothless swoops in and pulls Astrid out just in time. Hiccup and Toothless rise into the sky. Together, they use their speed and precision to lure the queen into diving. Toothless's tail fin catches fire, and Hiccup comes up with a plan. They dive straight into the queen's mouth and blast a powerful fireball. The explosion causes the queen to burn from within and crash into the side of the mountain, while Hiccup is accidentally knocked into the fiery pit below. Without hesitation, Toothless dives after him. Silence falls. Stoic and the others gather around Toothless, lying still. Stoic begins to mourn his son, until Toothless slowly spreads his wings, revealing Hiccup in his arms, alive. Stoic, moved beyond words, thanks Toothless. A few days later, Hiccup regains consciousness. Toothless, lying beside him, perks up at the sight of his friend waking up. Hiccup soon realizes he has lost his left leg, but Toothless nudges him gently, offering support. When Hiccup opens the door, he finds something incredible. Dragons now soar through the skies of Berk, flying freely among the villagers. Stoic joins him, smiling. He casually mentions that, since they lost their ships, the dragons have made great substitutes. Turns out riding dragons is kind of
rode a dragon?
magical. Astrid appears and kisses Hiccup. Then Gobber arrives with a surprise. A new tail fin for Toothless, specially designed to sync with Hiccup's new prosthetic leg, making it possible for them to fly together once more. And so, with a fresh bond forged between Vikings and dragons, Hiccup and Toothless take to the skies once again.